So one of the last things I learned about doing tutorial videos, going through the editing process, was there's a lot I could improve in these videos. So what I wanted to try and do was change a few things up. I've got better lighting, hopefully, as you can see. I had a couple of requests from people to show some video of myself, so this is what I look like, as opposed to showing just my hands, which is all you saw last time. And the other thing too was just to make videos a lot quicker and a lot simpler as well. So I'm hoping that this is both of those. So enjoy. What you'll need for this is some dental wax. You can buy this stuff from a pharmacy for about $3 a box like this. And all it is just sort of clear wax. I think people buy it to cover their braces to stop kind of irritation in the mouth. I ended up picking this up when I was suffering some kind of dental problem away on a holiday one weekend, and for some reason I held onto it and decided just one day to stick it to my nails. But anyway, so some dental wax, you can get this from a pharmacy or a supermarket. Some petroleum jelly, and this just helps you smooth the wax out to the nail. Some spirit gum, or if you wanted to, you could also use some Prosade as well. So either of these two products. This is just put a layer of this down on your actual nail to help the wax adhere. For this particular makeup, I'd probably favour the spirit gum. It's got a slightly yellowish tinge to it. I'm not a massive fan of Prosade, even though it does stick well. You need a Skin Illustrator palette. This is the FX palette. You don't necessarily have to use Skin Illustrator if you've got any kind of grease paint sort of laying around, or makeups of any kind. Like you could use face paints if you want to, so long as you've got a sort of good mix of kind of zombie-ish colors. So you've got red tones and black and browns and greens and yellows and things like that. So you could either use Skin Illustrator palette, or if you've got the Ben Nye bruise wheel's another perfect example. I think this is the death wheel. So either of these two wheels. So, if you've got something like this laying around rather than Skin Illustrator, you can definitely use these guys. I've just got these Ben Nye powders. These are not essential. They just kind of add to the end effect. So, they kind of mimic fake dirt and fake charcoal, basically. So, once I've finished kind of creating the nail effect, I generally kind of cover the tips of my fingers and my palms in this, just to kind of make them look dirty and distressed. What you also want is sort of a variety of sponges. I've just got my fine grade stipple sponge that I go back in and sort of draw back over the wax to kind of recreate some of the nail texture back in once you've applied the wax. And then a couple of just makeup sponges, and this is just for adding kind of pattern and variety when you're painting the nail at the end. A mix of sculpting tools. Be careful with this sort of stuff as well. I mean, if you kind of press too hard, you can actually end up damaging your real nail underneath. So I've got, I bought a set of embossing tools a while ago that have these sort of almost like a ball bearing or a kind of nipple at the end here, just a rounded end to stop. I use them for sort of trimming up the wax around the edge here, but the advantage to these guys is that they don't create any kind of scratches or damage, and they can't kind of prick you or that sort of thing. I do have this sort of needle sculpting tool. I'm very careful with this, but I generally use this to go back in and create some distress in the wax once it's applied. And the same goes with this tool again here. So using the pointed end of this guy here to go back in and either clean up the edges or go in and create some cracks and distress in the nail. And that's it. So actually there's one more thing. If you wanted to you know, if you wanted to add kind of more distress and I suppose a slightly gorier feel to the look, you could also add some blood. What I would recommend though is if you want to wear this out to a party as part of a full kind of zombie makeup, is get something that dries. This is Fleet Street drying blood in dark. So adding just sort of some of that around the edge of the nail to make it look like it's torn and distressed, or even underneath here as well. You know, again, just adds to the effect. If you wanted to, you could use regular blood, but just, you know, be wary that this stuff doesn't dry. It's water-based, whereas Fleet Street's alcohol-based, so this stuff dries. So if you go around touching things at the party, you'll most likely leave a blood trail, which could be kind of cool, but I imagine a lot of people getting angry with you. So what I do to start is I might just work on kind of 2 fingers rather than my entire hand. Just to give you an idea, is just go in and cover your nail up with a bit of spirit gum. And you don't have to sort of paint this on precisely either. You just kind of want a reasonable coverage so that the wax has got something to adhere to or grip to once you put it down. So that's it there. And what you want to do is it'll mostly kind of become tacky by air, is just to activate it, just sort of lightly tap over the top of it, and you can sort of see these like stringy kind of lines come up off it. That's generally when you know you're sort of ready to start applying the wax and it becomes tacky like that. So what I normally do, my rule of thumb, pardon the pun, is when you buy this wax, I think this brand in particular anyway, you get these kind of, you know, it's almost like it's being divided up into these kind of, you know, little segments here. Generally 2 of these is about enough to cover one nail, depending on how large your nails are. Obviously, I find that my thumb, I might need to sort of rip off 3 of these little guys here. So just grab them and first of all roll it in a ball. It's pretty easy to kind of manipulate as well. So start off with a ball, and what you want to do is kind of start flattening it out. So, you know, working your way around the edges and kind of pinching with your index finger and your thumb, and roughly create a shape that's, you know, about the size of your fingernail. It can be a little bit bigger as well, and about the thickness of sort of an artificial nail. I'm not sure what this is in inches, but it's about kind of 1 millimeter. And once you've done that, is just stick it straight on top. It doesn't matter if there's a lot of overhang and things like that. All you're looking to do really is just cover your actual nail underneath. The benefit to using this sort of dental wax as well, I found, is you know, it's pretty clear, so you can actually see a lot of the, you know, once you sort of smooth it out with a bit of petroleum jelly, you can see the detail of your physical nail underneath. Oh, got a bit of paint stuck under there. So that's one of the benefits as well. So it just, I mean, it actually looks like your kind of natural nail. So if you wanted to, you could go in and you know, start kind of like, and you don't even have to be precise with this either. You could, you know, use your fingers and kind of rip off the excess wax, or you could get the kind of pointed end of this tool here and, you know, scrape any excess off as well. It's okay to be kind of messy at this stage. This stuff is pretty pliable. If you end up taking a big chunk off accidentally, you can always just grab more from, you know, the packet and roll up a little ball and kind of smooth it back out again. This stage as well, you know, you can dip your finger in a bit of petroleum jelly, and that'll help you kind of smooth the wax out even more. And what this does is it sort of makes it look even more transparent once you put a layer of this stuff down on top too. Petroleum jelly helps it become more clear. So, I mean, that kind of already sort of looks like my nail. I mean, it does, you know, kind of look like it's covered, but I've just done that really quickly too. I haven't spent any time on it whatsoever. So what I will do is I'll just do the second nail really fast as well. So same thing again, grab a ball of wax and just start sort of spreading it out with your fingers. And I'll stick that down on top. So I'm just using the nails from my other hand at the moment to kind of trim off any of the excess. And the good thing about this is because it is sort of zombie hands, that, you know, your wax application doesn't really need to be that neat at all. If you wanted to, you could go in with kind of you know, nail art tools. I know they have files and other bits and pieces that come in those nail brush sets. You could go in and kind of, you know, tidy up these edges really, really well if you wanted to make it look like it was sort of, you know, coming out from, you know, the bottom here of your nail, like making it look like your real nail even more. So I don't know if you can see that. So I mean, you know, I haven't spent a hell of a lot of time on this at all, but it sort of already looks like my real nail. So what you want to do from here is, once you've kind of got it pretty even coverage on, you know, your nails, or you've covered them all in the dental wax, is go back in with sort of something, you know, pointed. Just clean that up a bit more. Sorry, that was the other thing I forgot to mention too. It's just with the stipple sponge, dragging over the top of the nail. You can, if you look at your actual real nail, you can see in, you know, up quite closely, there's almost like these vertical kind of lines or indentations in the nail. Using the stipple sponge to kind of wipe over the top of this wax, you know, puts those lines back in again. Not that anyone will pay that much attention to it, but again, like one of my other tutorials, if you put a bit of texture back into this wax, it also helps the paint adhere as well. So that's it with my real nails. So they're slightly lighter, I suppose, but, you know, not too much. I don't think anyone would notice if I went out into public like this. What you want to do next is grab the pointed end of this tool here, or if you wanted to, you could get this sort of, you know, needle tool. And if you don't have sculpting tools as well, you could pretty much use anything that's got a point on it, so long as you don't stab yourself or injure yourself. I just go back in now and kind of, you know, scratch some sort of random details into this. So what you can do is you can sort of take, you know, scratch some lines out, or you can take chunks out here and there, and, you know, the more random the better, really. You can do some sort of pretty harsh indentations, or you can do some light scratches, and you can focus, you know, predominantly on the kind of ends here or up here, closer to your skin as well on the edges. Take some chunks out of there. But what you're wanting to do at this stage, and you don't see it a lot, you know, because you're only working with this wax and no color at the moment, you don't see a lot of this detail until you start painting it. So yeah, this is just about distressing, I suppose. Might get this fine tool here and go back in and draw a few more scratches. What I've done here is I put sort of some, you know, cracked lines and some jagged edges here along the tip of my finger, and then this one I've taken a sort of bigger chunk out of the middle and added a few more sort of distress lines and cracks through the nail as well. I don't know if you can see that. And to help kind of bring that up, what I normally do is I get Skin Illustrator color, and I get the black, and I make just, you know, a reasonably kind of light wash of the black, and just run that over the top. And that looks quite dark because my palette hasn't had a chance to dry out. But just go over the top of that wax that you've applied, and then get either a tissue or a wet wipe and go back in and kind of wipe some of that color back off again. And what happens is the paint that you've just put down, most of it will sort of sit in the cracks and the grooves and the scratches that you just created in the wax. And any of the excess will kind of wipe off. So I don't know if you can see that. So I've just done this really quickly. If you wanted to, you could spend a lot of time doing this and actually create some, you know, really realistic looking kind of cracks in the nail if you wanted to as well. So I don't think this sort of larger one here has enough kind of detail in it, so I'm just going to go back in again and create a few more sort of harsh lines, and then get my black again and kind of just dab over the top of that. And then wipe it back off again and have a look at it. Yeah, so I mean, I'm reasonably happy with that. I think I prefer the index fingernail a bit better. I like the sort of the mixture of kind of harsh, deep lines and the more faint ones there, and that just that detail top there as well compared to this guy. But again, you know, most people won't be sort of studying the detail of this. It's just to kind of give a general effect. So once you put the black down, if you wanted to, you could go back in with a finer brush and, you know, go right into the kind of grooves and, you know, paint some black lines, you know, back into specific areas of the nail if you wanted to, just to make some areas look sort of deeper than others. The other thing you can do with this stuff too is, rather than kind of load the brush up with more paint, is just put some alcohol on it and then, you know, run some alcohol over the top of the wax and then dab it back off again. And that helps lift the paint back up again if you think that, you know, you put too much of one color down. So it's sort of evening those out a little bit more now. So, I mean, it's kind of up to you what you want to do at this stage. You could go in and add more color. So what I like to do, especially for kind of zombie hands, is create a little bit more kind of dirt and distress around the physical nail. So actually on my skin, I might get some of the, you know, the blood tones in the effects palette and, you know, create some sort of blood colors around the outside of the nail to make it kind of look like, you know, zombies just being clawing at someone, or, you know, crawling along the ground. And again, you don't even have to be that neat with this either, so I don't know if you can see that now. And you might want to add a little bit of black in there too if you feel like it needs to look a little bit dirtier. The other thing as well, if you've got some of the other palettes or Skin Illustrator palettes that would be, you know, ideal for painting this style of makeup or zombie hands, would be the Grunge palette. The Grunge palette's got quite a lot of brown tones in it too, sort of earthy tones. You could get some of those and, you know, paint some dirt up underneath the nail if you want to. And then it's kind of up to you which way you want to go. You know, I could add more kind of, I could add some greens to this too. Just for a bit of sort of colour variety. So if you wanted to make the kind of skin look like it's rotting or something. So that's it compared to my real nail. So already that's a pretty significant difference. And so if you wanted to add more trauma to the nail too at this stage, you could get a bit of the drying blood and just add that to kind of the side. So if you imagine, you know, a nail that's about to tear or has torn already, or even skin around the nail, just think about the places where it might, you know, start bleeding. So let's add some blood down here, and then maybe some up under the nail and a little bit on top of the nail as well. So again, some blood underneath. And then some around the sides too. You can, you know, leave it as it is, or sort of dab it over with your finger or one of the sponges too. I think one thing not to forget when you're doing this makeup as well is just here as well, like the tips of the fingers too. So you want to try and, you know, make it look as realistic as possible. So flip your hands over and paint a little bit of colour underneath. If you want to wear this to a party, you don't have to sort of paint too far up your finger as well. You know, if you need to hold on to a drink or you need to eat with your hands or something like that, it's sort of more just the ends of the finger here to add a bit of realism. So that's it. And what I tend to do with my zombie hands or zombie fingers is get a couple of these the Ben Nye powders. My favourite is sort of to get sort of a little bit of both of these and kind of add them to my hand to kind of dirty them up a little bit more. So these kind of come out like salt and pepper shakers almost. You can buy specific tools to sort of disperse this stuff a lot more evenly. I think they're bags or Hessian bags or something like that. I've only ever used them as loose powders. So if you dab a little bit out and then just get you know, a reasonably kind of fluffy brush, you can go back in and kind of, you know, add some of this sort of dirt texture to the knuckles and, you know, tips of the fingers, and make them look like they've been crawling along the ground, or they've just come out of some sort of dirty environment. Put a bit of the black out as well. So what these powders also do is they help take away some of the kind of sheen that may have been left behind from any of the excess petroleum jelly, or sometimes skin illustrators, if you use them quite thickly on skin, can become a bit shiny too. So these powders sort of help stop that as well. They almost sort of set it in a way. So that's it. It's my horrible zombie finger tutorial, or I suppose prisoner of war hands as well, if you like to use them for that. Anyway, thanks for watching.